because I was born in this vicinity, right around the Grand Club, and that was back in 1896, October 25th. I, of course, went to district school until the 7th grade, and from that time on, I became an Akronite in the old Akron High School on the corner where the
the town hall?
Town hall is now. Yeah. And during that period, I, of course, attended Sunday school and Presbyterian church, which existed at that time right next to the Baptist church now. And one Sunday during the session of Sunday school, Mr. Anderson, which is Arthur Anderson's father, was assistant superintendent of the school, Sunday school. So he approached me during the class one day, or one Sunday, and wanted to know if I was interested in banking. I said, well, I hadn't even thought of it, but what was the reason for the approach? And he said they needed some help for the summer down at the bank, and if I was interested, I should go down to the bank and approach Mr. Ford, who then was the chief. He was a kind of sort of a grouchy old fellow, and I approached him and said I was recommended. He said, well, what do you know? I said, I don't know anything about banking or bookkeeping or anything along that line. He said, well, that don't pertain to my thoughts, because I don't care whether you did or not, because whatever you learn here will be my own wishes. So I jumped at the chance of taking a job, and at $6 a week, I started in summer work. I did menial work. Cleaning a spittoon, I always get a kick out of that. And those were the days when they had spittoons.
How many would they have in the bank? More than one?
Help is...
No, how many spittoons?
Oh, one.
Just one?
Yeah.
Did a lot of people chew tobacco?
Oh, yes. That was quite prevalent. So that was one of my jobs, and stoking the furnace with coal, keeping it up, and cleaning the floor and so forth.
So you really started at the very bottom, didn't you?
I certainly did. After that, well, I continued on and on, and I tried to get an increase in salary from that $6 a week. That is true, I forgot. Anyway, 3 of us boys which I met up with. One was Joe Richards. That was, of course, you never knew him. And John McCrillis. The three of us all joined up, went down to Rochester, had an interview with the higher ups down there, and came home and was deciding on whether we should go or not.
Was that to the university?
Yes.
Yes.
Joe Richards finally, let's see, I believe he went to Rochester for a while, and John McCrillis did also. And of course, they're both gone now. But I stayed in the bank, clinging to my $6 a week. It wasn't too long before I asked for an increase, and they said they just couldn't do it. They couldn't afford it. That was Frank Stage. He was a county officer and lived in Akron. You never came in contact with.
No, I didn't know him.
So I finally got it up to $10, and I had a little vacation besides. Then I was called into the Army for a short period, 3 months, and came back to the bank again.
Where was this bank located at that time?
Right down the street from where it is now. So the white fronted building. It's there now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And at that time, we were ruled under the national laws and were known as the Wickware National Bank. Then in 1920, I think it was, that we changed over to the Bank of Akron, which was not a private institution, but
Independent?
independent. Yes. What else?
Now, who was the president of the bank then?
Heidi Eckerson. Oh, yeah, Mr. Edward Ford, the gentleman who hired me at the time, was cashier of the bank. And of course, he really run it because he worked in the bank all the time. And when business was slow, he would round up the fellow next door who was a bartender in the what kind of a shop?
A tavern or a saloon?
Tavern. And in the slow afternoons, they would open the back door and go out and take the table out there and have card games while I did the work inside.
Why, the Akron Bank wouldn't have time for that today, would they?
Yeah, it's really comical to think of all those things. graduated in 1915 I graduated. There was 15 of us in the class. And the year 1915, and it was always kept in my mind because it was so easy. We were very proud of the fact that was the highest, that was the most that ever graduated at one time. And that was, as I say, 1915.
Arthur, you mentioned being in World War I for a little while. Where were you stationed?
Camp up in Long Island. And I used to go back and forth by train overnight. Oh, wait a minute. My wife was in Saranac Lake at that time. I, with a heart murmur, they considered me very limited. And I was scared to pieces, thought I was going to die the next day.
But you didn't, fortunately, huh?
I did.
Right. And that, so you were...
And so I was assigned to a local board up at Carmel, New York, which is about 50 miles outside of New York. And I was boarded by the government at a home in which there was teachers from the school, and it must have been 8 or 10 boarded at the same spot. And we used to have some awfully good times. I have pictures now of moving around on Sunday afternoon and no cars, of course.
Horse and buggies,
and I
huh?
was there for, well, I was there about a month, I would say. More than that.
Now, coming back to your family, your the Berg family, have they been in our area a long time?
All their lives. All their lives.
Now,
They've lived in there.
How many generations? Your grandfather?
3.
Your grandfather came to Akron?
No. My grandfather. Oh, wait a minute. Grandfather, you mean Strickland?
Your mother was a Strickland, and the Stricklands were an old family in our area, right?
That's right.
And where did they live?
The house, in comparison to this, would be right next door.
That was on Route 5 or Main Street, was it? The Strickland property, near Grant Club.
Right near the Grant Club.
Yes.
And they used to have communication, very unique, from one house to the other. In other words, the daughter would call grandma, or the daughter would call across the road with a little telephone that they used to tap on. They told that many times. It was
Was it a tin can with a string?
Yeah, with a string.
Mm-hmm.
And they used to get communications back and forth to that extent.
Now, who was it that was across the road? Who were they communicating? It was whoever lived over there.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
2 girls having fun.
Yeah.
Across the road.
Yeah. I can't tell you who.
Now, you mentioned that your father worked for Dexter Denio.
Yes.
He must have had a lot of property, did he, Mr. Denio?
It was just the farm that was turned over to or was sold for the library.
Right in Akron. The farm was right in Akron, was it?
Yeah, well, it was right here across the road.
Across the road from where your house is?
Yeah, Strickland.
Yes.
I can remember Mrs. Denio being, in those days, she belonged to the elite class. She would love flowers, and she'd be working around the front yard with gloves on and taking care of the little flowers. And the neighbors always laughed because she was far from a farmer wife. She loved flowers and things like that.
Say that.
This is starting a new subject. I was quite interested in politics and used to work on the election board always, every year, for several years. And finally, I ran for the office of
Justice?
Wait a minute.
Mississippi.
Justice of Peace.
Mhm.
And served around 14 years on that board, which was really the town board in those days.
And now your son is following in your footsteps on the
That's
town
right.
board.
That's right. And he served a good many years too. I don't know how many. You don't know.
Well,
Finally lost out. I'm being reelected by 12 votes. I was too confident at the time of running, because I was working at a bank and always had in mind that there would be nothing to it. Everybody knew me and they should naturally,
They just naturally vote for you, wouldn't they?
yes,
And you just didn't bother to get out and work
That's
on
right.
your election. Yes.
that's right.
So somebody, Eager Beaver, got in there and
Uh,
took some votes away from you, right?
John Cagabine,
John Kagabine.
but of course don't mention that.
then Dr. comes out.
Now, you started out at $6 a week doing the chores around the bank. Now, tell us something of what has happened since then with your banking career.
I tried very hard to get an increase, and I had to approach this Frank Stage I mentioned before. He was the one that said it just couldn't possibly pay anymore. But finally they did come up. Got up to $25 a week, and I thought I was rich. And it remained at $25 a week. I think that was about the amount that I got when you were sick. Wasn't it, Ruth? Right. You're right.
Well, tell us.
Tell me.
Of course, I can fill that in. And this will be the end. I think we've had enough.
I was advanced to the office of cashier and vice president. And from there, I was I remained in that position for quite some time and finally elevated to, or advanced to what was that after that?
Chairman of the board?
Chairman of the board, yes.
Right. Well, thank you very much.
Lady, roll up doors. Not seen on the nation. First roll up doors. Or if you got a picture there, drawing, or you got a machine. Board gum balls for charity. That's advertising. I think we're quite good. Board gum balls and dispensing machine. Vending machine. What's that? What we're saying is that the products are known nationwide, so what we're emphasizing is the products, except we didn't say what the equipment manufacturer. We're saying, lighting will not door that, what the manufacturer. Equipment, how do you travel with having certain kind of food items? Yeah, what I mean, yeah, I think, I have to take care of that. I think we should say for example, that's what everybody knows about. Personally, we make other stuff, other candy, sugar-coated peanuts and so on. Yeah, I know that. They even sold a reducing pill, or a reducing pill for a company. Years ago, 15, at least 15 years. I don't know. Board milk. And actually, machine. Okay, well, we've got, take care of it. I mean, that's my education. New home. Yeah. Okay. Without saying. All right. Well, we got that. Now we come to 8 and 9. Well, there's the question. Should we have the center spread from panoramic? So they see the whole thing go on, right? And it was very apt to open it up to that. Ooh. Well, I think it's expressed itself. And then we come to a good place to live. And an introduction, and I thought we should have some subheads, like churches, organizations, locations, educational opportunities, and recreation and sport. On community cooperation. Okay. We got 2, 3, 5 pictures, so I think we can spread this. This, I really think, if we could blow it up, it would be good. Well, I think I'm going to blow it up. They can blow it up. Yeah, I think so. In practice. Yeah. And get it clear across the front, maybe, on the page, wherever it fits in there. I didn't think we ought to go through and make a dummy so precise that they have to follow it. No, just suggested, because after all. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So, next we drop out the word citizens. And here's the cloisters. The cloisters. An adult housing complex, now entering phase 2 of their expansion on Westgate Avenue. Well, phase 2 isn't done yet. You know, they're just entering. They just entered this week. 2 people just went in. That's phase 2. But they are going into now. You're seeing phase 3 advertised. But they won't go into that until about 1980. Yeah. That's what I mean by going into. They're actually entering. Moving in. Yeah, they're moving in. Are now entering phase 2. Well, maybe we should say completing. Completing. By the time this is out, they will be completed. Yeah, let's change that. The cloisters. And phase 2 of their expansion on Westgate Avenue. And the Octagon. Akron's famous Octagon. Built by Charles B. Rich in 1849. That lead is something that we spent hours on. John Hart told me last night, he's been researching it. He did a lot of work yesterday, but he 3 of us, John, Jim, and I, have been researching, and we have found all kinds of things. John found some more date. He said it began about 1835 to 1855. And Jim has newspaper articles, one quoting Queen Ivy had a tile, it says 1845, and then they have a paper that goes along with it that explains, it describes the house, and that says 1848. And John, who, we've been selling these for a few years, and last summer when we were selling them in the park, some woman bought one and got the slip that went with it, went away. Pretty soon she came back. She said, "What am I to believe?" You know? And John was fabricated. Yeah. He hadn't seen that before. Realized. So he said, "Let's decide on a date and stick to it." And all three of us decided 49 is when the is that okay with you there?
Yeah.
All right. Now, the school. What do we say about this? Now, the school, let's see what you just read this school. Yeah, Newstead houses there. Akron's comprehensive public school. Education. Okay, now here, I forgot from here. Something wrong with it. And well, here. What's this? Yeah, I suppose summary. Maybe we got a softball. Now, this is in Brooklyn, all right? Yeah. And we said Brooklyn, I guess we have, but, He didn't get that panoramic that he thought he had with the other voices. Well, we did that somewhere. We don't have it, though. Well, he had some pictures. He had some pictures, original. For some reason, maybe, oh, I don't think those signs. Oh, I know we did. I know, well, yeah, but not the signs. There's some, there are some in there. Because, you know, the refreshment stand is in there. Remember seeing that? Well, it wouldn't be there. That was, no, I guess. Well, that's Brook. That's Brook. Well, you know, he's done a pretty good job, and in spite of, if he did leave one or two things off that we planned on, yeah, we got more than we bargained for originally. Now, how are we going to do this? We got three fires rolling in the town hall. Put in. Originally, I had 6 pictures on the page, but now they're over panoramic. Substation. But, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, then they're over there, yeah. Um, well, I don't know how we. I think we just leave it up. Yeah, they'll have 8 pictures now. Water may go on. But, this is Newstead Fire Hall number 1. Newstead Town Hall. Okay, well, we've got, now, pictures. Several pictures now, what have I got here? Oh, okay. Oh, well, it says here, plan, this is on the positions. Well, what did we do? We were going to put that came under cooperation. That's why that space is there. This is going to be cut out and put over here. Okay, cut. Now. I thought that was it.
Yeah, well, that's why I looked at it.
Yeah.
I thought we were.
Okay. I had to look at that page to see what it was. Now, that's 2 pages for 4 pictures and a short text that I think we can take care of. Well, we talked about cutting out of Newstead House, except under the asphalt and what do you think of putting the electric superintendent, electric utility superintendent in?
I don't like it.
Well, read it all out. We've got it in on the married page. You can read it. Much of it. I wonder if it's okay. I wonder if it's not a letter. We probably should have done a letter. Well, we could on this final page, let's have it it's still a directory. We can still call it a directory and acknowledgement. And leave this right off. We can, bring this to the meeting, and I will go through and put more notes on these white pages. And I won't write on here. I don't know what they will do. They might even redraw that. They may have an artist with maps, or they may even have a map that they could superimpose acting on. Wouldn't have too much on it. And then what? Here, see. Like that final in Conrad Depth, Paradise. That's too bad, huh? Are you interested in a copy of this? I gave you, we made a mistake, my wife, I had one, and Charlie had a couple of them, and for some reason they got stuck with our stuff, so we brought home three. Now, I'll give this to John next, John. We don't know who gave that to you. We'll get- Yeah. Well, I think we. I'm real pleased. I'm sure Jim is too. I think he's happy that kid killer snake or something. About, maybe he needed to do that. Okay, well, here's town's, little brochure. This is a little brochure that I thought it might be, but apparently it's very neat. They wanted me to say systems, fabrication, sales, and installation. I brought that a little too much. I think if we say systems installation, it implies sales certainly, and maybe fabrication. But they don't fabricate everything because they have trade things. I see it.
Rather impressive, who they serve.